roller coaster ride.
America's coffee giant out with more dismal news on profits. Can Xerox get itself out of a serious jam?
Late-breaking results from Amazon. How much did it lose? How much longer will it bleed red ink? We'll go to Seattle to hear from Jeff Bezos.
And hearings to decide whether to pull the plug on Napster. The very latest on today's showdown in a San Francisco courtroom.
This is the Moneyline News Hour, live from New York and Los Angeles.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Willow Bay.
And I'm Stuart Varney. Good evening and welcome to Moneyline. Our top story tonight, it was a Wednesday washout on Wall Street. Stocks took a turn for the worse, with blue chips leading the way lower. The Dow Industrials posting the worst one-day decline in more than 5 weeks. Behind the turbulence, a sharp sell-off in chip stocks. Susan Lasovich has more on a dismal day when not even a hero could help.
Two-time Tour de France winner and cancer survivor Lance Armstrong rang the closing bell. But inspiration from the champ might have been more helpful at the start of the session. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged 183 points, or nearly 1.75%, to finish at 10,516. The Nasdaq pared more than half of its loss, but still gave up 41 points and remained below 4,000 at 39.87. A major trigger for the sell-off? Corporate profits coming up short of lofty expectations. LSI Logic matched Wall Street's estimates after the bell on Tuesday, but investors hammered the stock anyway because the results did not exceed their expectations. And that chipped chip stocks. The Philadelphia Semiconductor Index nosedived more than 6%. Casualties included Altera, Rambus, and Intel.
We've been seeing that for some time now, that if you miss your numbers, not only is your stock going to go down, but stocks that are related, the same industry, there's a tendency to hit those stocks, also.
Adding fuel to the fire, a slightly more cautious tone from Fed Chief Alan Greenspan this week.
That's definitely changed a little bit of psychology here. What we're looking for now is a wait-and-see approach from the Fed. So each and every piece of economic data is going to be scrutinized from here till August 22nd.
But the carnage spread to many sectors. Hewlett-Packard and all of the Dow tech stocks declined. Financial issues such as J.P. Morgan were hit, and pharmaceuticals, including Johnson & Johnson.
It could be a long, directionless summer. I think there'll be plenty of volatility, so it's unlikely to be dull, but I think people may, around Labor Day, be looking back and saying, just as they have for the first half of the year, a lot of activity, but not much progress.
And there could be a lot of activity tomorrow. One of the Fed's favorite economic reports, the Employment Cost Index, is due out, as is the Durable Goods Report for the month of June. Investors will pore over those numbers, knowing they could influence the Fed's decision on interest rates next month. Stuart.
I believe the Employment Cost Index is Alan Greenspan's personal favorite, correct? Yeah. Thanks, Susan. All right, Willow.
Stuart, a late-breaking deal straight out of cyberspace. InfoSpace, which provides online infrastructure and services, is buying the search site company GoToNet for just over $4 billion. That's a better than 40% premium over GoToNet's closing price. GoToNet, by the way, is 30% owned by Paul Allen's Vulcan Ventures. InfoSpace is down more than 7 in light after-hours trading. GoToNet, no surprise, up 8, also in light trading. It's been a rough year for GoToNet, as it has been for the entire .com sector, down 30%. Not quite so bad for InfoSpace. Shares off 11% on the year. Also after the bell, Amazon.com reported a smaller than expected second quarter loss, but revenues came in short of forecasts, and its stock lost ground in after-hours trading. Amazon reporting a loss of 33 cents a share, 2 cents narrower than expected. Revenue came in at $578 million, but Wall Street was looking for more. And in active after-hours trading, the stock lost nearly $3 after losing more than 1.5 during the regular session. Bruce Francis is standing by live at Amazon's headquarters in Seattle, and he joins us now with the very latest. Bruce?
Willow, it's all about the spin, and in the case of Amazon, they're saying on their conference call that, hey, don't focus on the fact that we were light by revenue estimates, even those internal estimates at Amazon. Focus on the fact that we were able to cut costs and actually meet the bottom line expectations, and in fact exceed them by just a couple of pennies. Let's take a look, though, on Amazon's outlook, because that's what traders and investors will be focusing on in the sessions ahead. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos says that their success in their electronics business, which is growing very rapidly but not profitable quite yet, means that Amazon can be more than just media. Books, music, and video are profitable right now. Bezos says that's significant. Also going forward, Amazon says that they're, in the U.S. anyway, going to place much more emphasis on getting more revenue per customer and less emphasis on gaining new customers. On the financials, some important factors to consider going forward. Amazon's CFO Warren Jensen says that their operating loss as a percentage of sales will be less than 10% or in the single digits by the end of Q4. That's something that analysts like Henry Blodgett says that he wanted to see coming out of Amazon on this report. Also, their strong cash position. $1 billion by the end of Q4. That is an improvement, up about 10% from the cash position that they have right now. That's critical because many analysts have been saying that they are concerned about Amazon's execution risk. Lehman Brothers downgraded them today. Willow, we're going to have more on Amazon later on when CEO Jeff Bezos speaks to Moneyline in just a short while. If you want to hear it on television anywhere tonight, it's on Moneyline. We'll see you then.
Bruce, we're looking forward to it. Thanks. Stuart?
All right, thanks, Willow. Well, here is another stock that could set a negative tone for tomorrow's trading session. JDS Uniphase. The stock lower in extremely active after-hours trading despite a better-than-expected profit report. It's a fiber optic equipment maker, and it earned 14 cents a share. That is 2 cents better than expected. Sales more than doubled to $524 million. JDS was the most actively traded issue on the NASDAQ today, ahead of the earnings news and its move to the S&P 500 index after the closing bell. Now, in late trading, the action truly exploded. Unofficial volume on the NASDAQ, 86 million shares. More than 10 million JDS shares traded hands on Instinet, nearly 22 million on Island ECN. But after gaining 5 3/4 in the regular session, JDS Uniphase lost nearly a point in after-hours trading, and that is unusual for a stock that's being added to the S&P. Just when Xerox shareholders thought it couldn't get any worse, the company's stock falls to its lowest level in over 5 years. Today, the copier company missed already lowered second quarter profit estimates, and its third quarter outlook is not much better. Alan Dodds-Frank now on the trouble at Xerox.
There's a paper jam at Xerox. The nation's largest copier company reported sharply reduced earnings for the second quarter and warned that a turnaround could take much longer than company executives once predicted. Among the key problems, Xerox operations in Mexico are under investigation for accounting irregularities, the ongoing realignment of its sales force, and the company faces a tough technology transition.
The company is really at a crossroads in products. It's at a technology transition phase, and that's a very dangerous time for companies. What's happening is people are copying less and printing more, and there's a technology transition, and Xerox has been a little late to the game.
The company says its high-end color copiers are doing reasonably well, although it needs to beef up its sales force, especially in view of competition from printer manufacturers.
The one area that's probably the most troublesome is their high-end volume production machines. And part of the reason for that disappointment is that the sales force, which they reorganized earlier this year, hasn't gained a lot of traction.
Overall, Xerox's second quarter earnings on operations missed a consensus estimate by 20%, 24 cents a share, compared to 62 cents a share a year ago. And that's not including an 11 cents per share charge for problems in Mexico. Top executives there have been removed and are under investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission for mismanagement that Xerox says will cost $78 million. As the company's stock hit a 5-year low, Xerox chairman and chief executive Paul Allaire issued the company's second warning in a little more than a month. He said third quarter earnings would fall well below current estimates, adding there should be a significant downward adjustment to current second half expectations. Analysts wonder how long a Xerox turnaround could take in the face of growing competition. The company says it expects improvements by year's end, but analysts are not so confident. Alan Dodds-Frank, CNN Financial News, New York.
Investors anything but forgiving. Xerox shares sank 3 1/4 points, ending the day just under $15 a share. That's a new 52-week low. And over the past year, this troubled copier maker has shed more than $22 billion worth of market cap.
Ahead on Moneyline, Redmond's legal brigade storms the Supreme Court. Does Microsoft think the highest court in the land cannot handle the case? We'll go inside the company's latest appeal. And is Napster about to face the music? We'll go live to a San Francisco court with the fate of the hotshot website hanging in the balance. Later, we'll head north to Seattle. Jeff Bezos on Amazon's latest report and the crisis of confidence on Wall Street. Stay with us.
From CNN's New York and Los Angeles headquarters, this is the Moneyline News Hour.
Moneyline News Hour is brought to you by the Archer Daniels Midland Company. ADM, supermarket to the world.
The best things in life just come naturally. Like natural vitamin E from ADM. Made from the healthy goodness of soybeans, you'll find it in many leading brands of dietary supplements. Studies have shown that natural vitamin E is significantly more effective than synthetic brands. It's an important part in helping you maintain overall good health, especially high-risk targets like the breast, prostate, and colon. Natural vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant that can help support your immune system and strengthen your body's own disease-fighting abilities. It's your health. It's your life. Do what's right for you. Natural vitamin E from ADM. Do what comes naturally.
You know how sometimes you get a little hungry and that voice inside says, feed me. Maybe it's time you were introduced to these little guys.
Discover Dannon snack packs. All the good stuff Big Dannons have.
Only smaller.
Dannon fruit on the bottom is better than ever. Why? Because it's just bursting with a more delicious taste of real fruit. And it's smoother and creamier than ever before. Dannon fruit on the bottom. A tastier, creamier Dannon.
Jim and John were competing for the same promotion. Then Jim got the amazingly quiet Genie Accelerator, which opens twice as fast. Jim got to work quicker. Jim got the big promotion. John works for Jim now. The Accelerator, only from Genie.
Tonight, conservatism in the crossfire. Democrats say George Bush's vice presidential choice, Dick Cheney, is more conservative than Newt Gingrich. What's wrong with sitting on the far right of the aisle? Press and Madeline debate the name-calling tonight, 7:30 Eastern on CNN.
Microsoft's legal team has been laying low since a judge ordered a breakup. Until now, the company today filed a brief with the Supreme Court, asking it to send the blockbuster antitrust case back down to a lower court for the first review. Microsoft stock down nearly a point and a quarter today, just over 67.75 at the official close, and it's down more than 40% this year as the battle with the government came to a head. That is a loss of roughly $250 billion worth of market value. Steve Young reports.
Microsoft today told the Supreme Court it isn't equipped to hear the company's direct appeal of Judge Thomas Penfield Jackson's breakup order because the trial record with thousands of pages of transcripts and exhibits and depositions is too complicated. The software giant says the issue should be narrowed first by the U.S. Court of Appeals. That court has previously sided with the company.
Microsoft makes a very hard-hitting and compelling argument that the Supreme Court should let it go to the Court of Appeals first, arguing that this case is what they call a morass of substantive, legal, and procedural issues.
The government says Microsoft is a repeat antitrust predator, and that's why it asked the Supreme Court to jump in under a seldom-used law called the Expediting Act. The company has hired the high-powered Washington law firm Sidley & Austin and its star Supreme Court litigant Carter Phillips to shape its briefs. Microsoft turns the government's argument on its head, saying the breakup remedy is so severe and the case is so significant to the nation's economy that it's more, not less important for the appeals court to pore over the details of the case first. Even antitrust lawyers who think Microsoft will win this part of the wrangle think the brief filed today lists too many issues.
This may be the time to give the longest possible laundry list of issues that you're going to raise, in the hopes that the reaction of the Supreme Court justices is, oh my God, I don't want to get into all of that.
The Justice Department declined to comment, saying it's scheduled to file a reply next month. Then the company gets the final word.
Those briefs will arrive while the justices are off on summer vacation.
The Supreme Court doesn't come back until early October, but by September, it could signal whether or not it will put the appeal on a Supreme Court fast track. Stuart?
All right, Steve Young reporting. Thank you, Steve. Willow.
Stuart, we have a very different legal battle in tonight's Tech Watch, the showdown between the music industry and Napster. Today, that battle is playing out in federal court, with the recording industry seeking an injunction that could temporarily put the company out of business. Casey Wyan is outside U.S. District Court in San Francisco, where the hearing began late this afternoon. Casey?
Well, Willow, only a couple of years ago, few people had heard of Napster, but today, in this courthouse behind me, hundreds of spectators and journalists packed two courtrooms to more than capacity to hear what could be Napster's fate, at least in the short term. To summarize the points that are at issue here, the recording industry has asked for a temporary injunction that it would at least temporarily put Napster out of business. The industry's argument is that Napster's file-sharing software has made music piracy over the internet free and easy. The Recording Industry Association of America estimates music swappers worldwide have cost the industry more than $300 million in lost sales. And they also claim that it is depriving artists of their right to control their work. Napster and its supporters, on the other hand, say that the service actually promotes new music and helps boost music sales. However, Napster CEO Hank Berry has said he is willing to work with the recording industry on some kind of a compromise that would recognize their intellectual property rights. Napster supporters also say that the genie is out of the bottle, basically, because so much of this software has been distributed widely that there's no real way to curtail it. So that's their argument against the injunction. The judge did ask several questions of both sides. She asked the recording industry whether Napster is the Microsoft of the music business. The lawyer didn't directly respond to that, but he did say that this is the most egregious example of copyright infringement in the history of the world. And Napster basically blamed the recording industry itself for not encrypting music quickly enough. Willow?
Casey Wyan reporting live in San Francisco tonight. Thank you. Coming up next on Moneyline's News Digest, the investigation into yesterday's crash of an Air France Concorde. There's new information about engine trouble before takeoff.
Tech Watch is brought to you by Nortel Networks. We're building the new high-performance internet. For more of the latest technology news, log on to cnnfn.com TechWatch.
Faster, more reliable, higher quality, more profitable. Nortel Networks is building the new high-performance internet, and it can be whatever you want it to be. So tell us, what do you want the internet to be?
Come together right now over me.
What is Tyco doing today? We're supplying doctors around the globe with tools to save lives. What is Tyco doing today? Working in your world. Tyco International.
A little stress? Bet us online investors aren't helping your blood pressure.
Online? I'm on Wall Street, a professional.
My online broker lets me see stock quotes the same way they see them at the exchange.
You do not see them continuously, not as the market's moving.
Actually, I do. Say ah.
Ah.
That's why Daytech calls it Streamer.
Very well. Daytech Online. The rules are changing.
Checking tonight's Moneyline movers. Ask Jeeves gained nearly 4.5. It posted a narrower than expected loss, 51 cents a share. Analysts were looking for it to lose 56 cents a share. Remedy, that's the name of the company, it plunged more than 19.5. Several brokerages downgraded this software maker after it reported lower than expected second quarter revenue. Cyma jumped nearly 3.5. This is a laser supplier. It beat second quarter profit forecast by 15 cents a share. Then we have BMC Software, down more than 1.5 points, back to a new 52-week low. This is an e-commerce software maker, and it lowered its 2001 earnings estimates, and it said it expects revenue to be flat for the rest of the year. Not good news, Willow.
No, in other corporate news, Stuart, Dresdner and Commerce Bank ended their merger negotiations today after failing to agree on a price. The deal would have created Europe's second-largest bank. And Telefónica's president, Juan Villalonga, officially resigned today. He has been under a cloud of suspicion since an investigation of possible insider trading violations was launched last month. Villalonga is credited with engineering the recent deal between Telefónica's internet unit, Terra Networks, and Lycos. Fearful the pending merger could collapse without Villalonga, the Spanish telecom did offer to let him stay on as chairman of Terra Networks until the deal is complete. No word on his decision yet. Telefónica stock has been under pressure the past year, down 29% from its high.
Engine trouble, last-minute repairs. These are some of the details emerging about yesterday's Concorde crash outside Paris that killed 113 people. Wolf Blitzer joins us now from Washington with the Moneyline News Digest. Wolf.
Thanks, Stuart. Air France said today that mechanics worked on one of the Concorde's jet engines just before takeoff yesterday. Airline officials said the pilot had delayed departure because of the repairs, but seconds after the plane lifted off, the control tower reported seeing flames shooting from the Concorde. Then the crew radioed that an engine had failed. This amateur video shows the Concorde on takeoff just moments before it crashed into a hotel near Paris's Charles de Gaulle Airport. In Washington today, President Bill Clinton had some tough words for Republican lawmakers. Clinton said Republicans had been quick to pass tax-cutting bills before their party's political convention in Philadelphia next week. But he asked why the legislation, which calls for cuts in estate taxes and the so-called marriage penalty tax, had not been sent yet to the White House for his expected vetoes.
Instead of following the path that got us here, congressional Republicans want America to take a U-turn. Over the past 2 weeks, they have pushed through a series of expensive tax bills, one after another. They've been in a rush to get these bills passed before their convention, but they've been in no rush to get them to my desk.
In the race for president today, Democrat Al Gore got his first chance to comment on his opponent's new running mate. Gore said a Republican ticket with George W. Bush and Dick Cheney was an old guard ticket. He was in Chicago at a rally with the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Gore has yet to name his running mate. Bush and Cheney today made their first campaign stop together in Cheney's hometown of Casper, Wyoming. Bush told the supporters that he and Cheney would bring honor and dignity to the White House. And lastly, residents of Granite Falls, Minnesota began the cleanup after their small town was hit by a series of tornadoes yesterday evening. One person died and 350 homes were damaged in the storm. Those are some of tonight's top stories. We'll have much more coming up on The World Today. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. on the West Coast. Stuart?
Wolf, what would you say is the Gore campaign's main line of attack against Dick Cheney?
Well, we heard it repeatedly over the past 24 hours now from so many of Gore's surrogates, including Gore himself. Cheney may be a nice guy, may be affable, may have some experience, but when all is said and done, his voting record, while a member of the House of Representatives, shows he's an extreme conservative, someone along the lines of Newt Gingrich, perhaps even more extreme. We're going to be hearing a lot about that voting record in the weeks ahead.
Is that an orchestrated line of attack, perhaps?
Yes, it's very orchestrated. It's coming, of course, from the Gore campaign, but it doesn't really need to be all that orchestrated because the Democrats are already much online. They're going after Cheney, trying to make the case that his voting record on children, against freeing Nelson Mandela in 1986, on all sorts of issues, Social Security, taxes, that all of this paints a picture of an extreme conservative.
Wolf Blitzer in Washington. Thanks very much, Wolf. Willow.
Stuart, coming up, a legendary financier gets a new mission. Washington asks George Soros to spread the wealth across a war-ravaged corner of the world. And later in the program, a grassroots movement fights the tide of e-commerce. Why a broad coalition is calling on consumers to resist the lure of the web.
Work, work, work. David Chesler's growing company designs GPS systems for golf.
Hey, I'm willing to put in the long hours of research, but dealing with details, now that's rough. So we go to Brightlane.com.
Brightlane.com gives businesses one place to go for everything from banking to benefits.
Payroll to paperclips.
With Brightlane.com, it's easy to knock out the details of running a business.
So I can get back to work.
Brightlane.com. Do what you do best.
So, we'll talk about that later.
Large caps have capped. And if large caps have capped, that must mean market momentum is moving towards mid caps. Except the major movers are mixed on mid caps and more inclined to maneuver to micro caps.
Micro caps.
As small a cap as a cap can get, if a small cap can get small. Now go make us some money.
Now there are over 50 index funds that you can buy and sell just like stocks. Introducing iShares.
If you need to move faster, we can help. Because success is even sweeter when you're the first one to taste it. Ernst & Young, from thought to finish.
Picture this, a life without worry, where problems are quickly solved. Picture a future that's financially secure for you and the ones you love. Picture Nationwide, with auto, home, and life insurance products to protect what you hold dear, and retirement planning to help you prepare for your future. If you can picture it, Nationwide can too. Nationwide, insurance, financial services on your side. An equal housing opportunity insurer.
A faded star on Wall Street received an unusual show of support today from the U.S. government. Legendary investor George Soros, whose hedge fund fell on hard times recently, today got the nod to manage a development fund for the Balkans. The Clinton administration named Soros to direct the fund, meant to spur private business in countries affected by last year's conflict in Kosovo. Soros will manage $100 million of U.S. government funds, plus $50 million of his own money. Soros has a long track record of investing in Eastern Europe, but he recently had to restructure his once vaunted hedge fund after taking huge losses in tech stocks. Coming up in our next half hour, full coverage of today's market action.
We'll look at how a downdraft turns into a washout on Wall Street, triggered by fears of slow profits ahead.
Also driving the sell-off, a flight from chip stocks as investors worry whether semiconductor sales have already hit their peak.
Plus, a king of web retailing releases after the bell earnings, and we'll go live for that to Seattle.
We don't keep ourselves at a safe distance.
We don't have blind faith.
We read.
We listen.
We learn.
We plan to retire rich.
$7.95 stock trades, low margin interest rates, comprehensive research. ShoreTrade.com, a smart tool for smart investors.
Tonight in the Crossfire, have Democrats made conservatism a bad word, or should George W. Bush and Dick Cheney be proud to be conservatives? Tonight, 7:30 Eastern on CNN.
It started a few months ago. She just feels sad, hopeless. Seems like she's always tired. She doesn't eat. She seems to feel miserable about life. I wish she was happier, but this condition is hard to reason with. When I heard about the research study, I called to learn more. If you or someone you love is suffering from these symptoms, call now to see if you qualify for the study. Picking up the phone is the hardest part.
If you've had previous credit problems, buying a car can seem like a red light that never changes. That's why Hillsborough Chrysler Plymouth and Jeep offers a unique program called New Start Financing. We guarantee to offer you financing regardless of your credit history. Payments are as low as $89 a month. So whether you've suffered through a job loss, repossessions, or even bankruptcy, we'll give you the green light to a new car at Hillsborough Chrysler Plymouth and Jeep. We guarantee to offer you financing. Call now.
Every online investor dreams of finding a broker with low commissions, cutting-edge technology, and personal customer service. At Scottrade, we've got you covered. Our real-time streaming quotes and charts are eye-popping. And when you combine that technology with $7 market orders, and customer service delivered through 115 branches nationwide, you have an online brokerage firm that simply can't be beat. Open an account today and receive our real-time streaming quotes and charts through the end of the year, absolutely free. ScottTrade.com.
Get fit with the Awesome Hour Upper Body Home Workout, the new video from the creators of the best-selling Fitness Made Simple program. Work out with fitness celebrity John Bastow at home and learn the keys to sculpting a lean, muscular physique.
The Awesome Hour Upper Body Home Workout provides exercises to help build your chest, back, shoulders, biceps, triceps, and even abs.
Just 1 hour or less for each workout. Now there's no time excuse for not staying in shape. Have your credit card ready and call now to order.
The investigation of the Air France crash on The World Today tonight. The Moneyline News Hour continues. Here again, Willow Bay in Los Angeles and Stuart Varney in New York.
In tonight's headlines, blue chip shares take a late dive, sending the Dow to its worst point loss in more than a month. And Amazon beats Wall Street forecasts, but will it turn the tide of investor skepticism? We'll analyze the results with Amazon boss Jeff Bezos. Plus, the new challenge to e-commerce, a grassroots coalition asks consumers to just say no to buying over the web.
But first, more on tonight's top story. Wall Street gets walloped by fears over future profits. Stocks lost ground right from the outset as investors fear that earnings in the second half of the year will be dragged down by a slowing economy. The Dow Industrials down throughout the day and closing the session down 183 at 10,516. Its worst one-day showing in nearly 6 weeks. Check the day's big losers. Hewlett-Packard down more than 5. J.P. Morgan down 5 points. IBM off nearly 2. Johnson & Johnson and Xerox both down 3¼ points. Xerox missed earnings estimates and warned again about poor profits to come. The losses also extended the NASDAQ, which slipped and then recouped much of its loss, but it was down 41 points on the day at 39.87. The day's most actively traded issue, that's an understatement. There were 200 million shares traded this day in JDS Uniphase, 200 million shares. It lost nearly a point in after-hours trading after gaining 5 3/4 in the regular session. It's a fiber optic equipment maker, something of a pioneer in the industry. It is joining the S&P 500 today, and it beat street forecasts in after-hours reports. A big web merger to report on. Late today, InfoSpace, which provides online infrastructure and services, said it's buying the search site company GoToNet for more than $4 billion in stock. That's nearly $87 a share, and that is a 43% premium. In after-hours trading, InfoSpace down 7, GoToNet up 8.
Much of today's Wall Street jitters were set off by the chip sector. Semiconductors have been battered back and forth by contrasting estimates of future growth. In the hot seat today, LSI Logic. Greg Clarkin has been following the divergent views on the direction of chips.
The great semiconductor debate rages on, this time triggered by a smaller than expected revenue figure from LSI Logic. While the revenue shortfall was slight, the sell-off it triggered in semiconductor stocks was great. Shares of chip companies, big and small, suffered. LSI was pounded, down from yesterday's New York close of almost $49 a share. Intel fell, as did National Semiconductor, Advanced Micro Devices, and Altera. Analysts say the problems, at least at the moment, appear to be LSI-specific, but investors are worried they could spread to the rest of the chip companies.
The investors tend to generalize. LSI is a semiconductor company. It's a premier supplier. So they say if LSI is having execution problem, maybe others. Maybe it signals something more fundamental than just execution.
LSI posted revenue of $644 million, about $20 million less than some were expecting. The shortfall is blamed on a component shortage. But investors in chip stocks are jittery, selling at the slightest sign of trouble and looking for any sign of an end to the long-running demand cycle that's fueled the chip business. And analysts are split on whether or not that cycle is coming to a close.
Inevitably, this cycle will come to a conclusion. It'll probably be done by overcapacity, oversupply, 5 different people all claiming 30% market share. We just don't think that's there yet. And the clear sign is that people are saying that demand is much stronger than expected.
As for LSI, analysts say the revenue shortfall has damaged management's credibility, something that may take 1 to 2 quarters of very strong results to restore. Greg Clarkin, CNN Financial News, New York.
It's been a rough ride for the NASDAQ. The index has lost ground 3 of the last 4 trading sessions, and it's now back below 4,000. But does that mean we're in the midst of another major decline? Well, as Alan Chernoff reports, there may be a silver lining behind the NASDAQ cloud.
The silver lining is low volume. While the NASDAQ has lost nearly 300 points during the last 7 trading sessions, every drop has come on relatively light trading.
The volume in general lately has been very light. Part of the reason I think the volume is light today has to do with the fact that it's the summertime and a lot of people on vacations.
Technical analysts say that means there's little conviction behind the selling. Average volume on the NASDAQ this year is 1.7 billion shares. Today's volume was below average. The same was true on Monday as well as Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday of last week, all days when the composite lost more than 2%. Nearly every time the NASDAQ has gained 2% this month, volume has been above average.
You want to see the volume flowing into stocks as the market advances. You want to see the volume not flowing into stocks as it declines. And currently our momentum indicator is still positive, indicating that for the intermediate term, the next 4 weeks, we should be in pretty good shape.
Individual NASDAQ stocks are also showing the pattern. On down days, they fall on relatively light volume. BEA Systems, the e-commerce transactions company, is an example. It fell 3% today on nearly 3 million shares, but that's less than half the stock's average daily volume during the past year. That's been true as the stock has fallen the past couple of weeks. Such a silver lining, of course, does not guarantee a bright outlook. Merrill Lynch's chief technician sees little reason for investors to be complacent.
I've seen occasions in the past where declines have started on light volume and seeming to be innocuous for that reason, and yet eventually the volume picked up and the decline accelerated. So to me, the fact that volume has been light on recent down days relative to some of the rally days is not necessarily good.
Of course, Wall Street pros all have their favorite technical indicators. Some of the more popular ones are positive right now. The NASDAQ composite remains above its 200-day moving average. The index is oversold on a short-term basis by several measurements, and the put-call ratio has been rising, indicating there's growing pessimism. That means more people are getting their selling out of the way. Stuart?
The NASDAQ declining but on low volume. Does the same thing apply to the Dow?
Not at all. In fact, when the Dow has had big declines, the volume has been strong. So that may say something about the potential for a divergence between the Dow and the NASDAQ.
And that is a negative for the Dow at this point.
You got it.
All right. Alan Chernoff, thanks very much. Willow?
Stuart, next on Moneyline, trouble for a transatlantic auto giant Daimler Chrysler facing a profit squeeze for the rest of 2000. And we'll talk to a tech fund star about why volatility can be your friend, Kevin Landis. Stay with us.
This year, 1 out of every 6 new cars and trucks sold in North America will move on the BNSF Railway before they ever hit the road. Music by Verdi. New Wheels, brought to you in part by the people and the automotive trains of BNSF.
Call around the country or around the world. With Sprint 1000 Weekends, the choice is yours.
Introducing Sprint 1000 Weekends with international calling. With Sprint 1000, you'll get 1,000 minutes of long distance for $20 a month. And now, for just $20 more a month, you can use your 1,000 weekend minutes for international calls. That's just $40 for 1,000 minutes of international calls. All you have to do is call 1-800-PIN-DROP now and switch to Sprint 1000 Weekends with international calling. Then you can call France, Germany, Italy, the UK, and other European countries, plus Canada, Japan, and even Australia. It's a great way to stay in touch and a great deal. 1,000 minutes for just $40 a month. So go ahead, make calls all weekend long. To Paris, to Frankfurt, to Tokyo, to Rome.
Now there's a world of reasons to switch to Sprint 1000 Weekends.
Get 1,000 minutes of long distance now with international calling. Switch to Sprint 1000 Weekends now at 1-800-PIN-DROP.
Topping tonight's earnings wrap, companies setting off profit alarms, beginning with Daimler Chrysler. The German auto giant beat the street with earnings for the second quarter, but As expected, Daimler warned that profits in upcoming quarters will suffer, in part because of higher marketing tabs and intense competition in North America. Daimler stock gained more than $1 in New York trading, but it's been on a downhill slope since it debuted late in 1998 after the Daimler-Chrysler mega merger. Also out with a warning today, Sony, which posted a more than $800 million loss in the latest quarter and slashed forecasts for the rest of its fiscal year. The culprit? A new accounting rule forcing film companies to write off ad expenses within 3 months rather than 10 years. Sony's stock was on a tear last year as the company plowed into internet ventures. But this year, as dot-coms took a dive, so has Sony, down 32% in 2000.
In tonight's Moneyline Movers, more earnings reaction. Art Technology jumped 5.5. It beat Wall Street's second quarter profit forecast by a penny, with revenues surging more than 400%. F5 Networks gained nearly 5 after earning 19 cents a share in its third quarter, 3 cents better than expected. Oxford Healthcare rose almost 3. It also beat Wall Street forecasts, earning 41 cents a share in the second quarter. eBay lost more than 3.5. That despite beating Wall Street's profit forecast by 2 cents a share late yesterday. Earlier today on CNN-FN, Chief Executive Meg Whitman said the results showed the web auction house on the upswing.
The top line more than met our expectations, driven by auction revenue, both here in the United States as well as abroad. And our profitability increased quite dramatically, particularly from Q1, based on, expense control and good management.
Now check this out. Since hitting its high of more than $127, the online auctioneer has fallen 59%.
More now on a volatile day for the NASDAQ. The index was down nearly 125 at one point today, then gained almost all of that back before late selling left it down 41 points, or about 1%. Not exactly a comforting session for tech investors, but our guest tonight thinks volatility can be opportunity if you get the timing right. Kevin Landis, portfolio manager at First Hand Funds, joins us now in San Francisco. Kevin, welcome back.
Thanks. Good to be back.
So explain this volatility can be your friend theory to us, please.
Well, if you're investing with an eye towards the stocks you ought to own for 01 and 02, and you're in no particular hurry to get your trades filled today at this price, a market like this gives you the chance to be disciplined and hold out for what you think is an attainable price.
So you look for a lower price, although you wouldn't call these low prices.
No. I'd say you can get a better entry point, given that the market seems to want to trade back and forth. Now, markets being what they are, as soon as we say this, watch, it'll go into a nice long-term uptrend, but that wouldn't be so bad either.
You brought us some of your top picks tonight. Let's go through them, but first, they're your top picks for future performance, not necessarily for how they've performed this year. Is that correct?
Right. We had a few ego charts that we could have thrown up there. Stocks have done really, really well, but I tried to pick a few that haven't really had their best moves yet.
Okay, let's take a look at Wind River System. It's down 12.5% year to date. It's well off its 52-week high. So at this price, is this a good time to buy it?
I think this is a good year to start accumulating Wind River, but this is a stock that we're probably going to own for years. And this company makes all the operating systems that you don't see. You're familiar with the operating system on your computer, and maybe you're familiar with the operating system on your cell phone, but I'll bet you're not aware of the operating system that runs the elevator in your building, or the climate control, or any of the other embedded systems that surround you.
All right, let's take a look at Digital Microwave. It's wireless infrastructure provider. Now, obviously, the wireless sector is hot, but why this stock?
Well, what's great about this stock is it's one of these great unknown, invisible companies, and it's an example of how we'll take a trend that we really like, but dig in and find sort of a less famous name. The only time you think of a radio company like Digital Microwave is when you can't get a signal on your cell phone, and you begin to wonder why. And the answer is that they haven't bought enough radios from Digital Microwave to build out their network yet.
Okay, and those two are in your top holdings in your value fund, but NetSilicon is not.
Right. Well, NetSilicon's a smaller company. We also own a little bit of NetSilicon in our communications and on our innovators fund. This is a communications chip company, but it's a communications chip company with a little bit of a twist. The Internet's not just about hooking all the computers together. It's also about hooking together your printers and your copiers and maybe even your refrigerator. And that's the market that NetSilicon serves. And it's not that obvious, not that sexy, but it's a great market for this company.
Kevin Landis, thanks for sharing your top picks with us tonight.
Thank you.
Stuart?
All right, Willow, still to come. Amazon reports a smaller than expected loss, but investors seem more concerned with the sales letdown. What lies ahead? We'll ask the man steering the ship, Jeff Bezos, when Moneyline returns.
Come on in, buddy. Welcome to day trading. Look at this. Watch. Bam! I just made $13 like it was nothing. Boom! Look at that. $62. They just took my bid. Yes! I'm up 1/16, baby. This could be you, my friend. Oh, no. What? I am destroyed. Wait. Come back.
Now there are over 50 index funds that you can buy and sell just like stocks. Introducing iShares. 4,000 new websites every day. 2 million new internet users every week. $26 billion in online transactions every month. How can you ensure that your e-business will stand up? Make sure there's a business model to support it.
Faster, more reliable, higher quality, more profitable. Nortel Networks is building the new high-performance internet, and it can be whatever you want it to be. So tell us, what do you want the internet to be?
Come together right now over me.
Tonight on CNN Newsstand, she's no stranger to the camera. On the right, Lynn Cheney. The convention.
America has lost its way.
Or the campaign trail.
Lynn is an incredibly important member of this team.
She's an outspoken conservative thinker that's made a splash on Washington politics. Meet Lynn Cheney, wife of the GOP vice presidential nominee. Does the past professional and personal life of a spouse matter in a presidential campaign? Phone or email your comments. CNN Newsstand. Tonight, 10 Eastern.
We are expecting very shortly a ruling in the Napster case. We're going to take you live to the courthouse as soon as that decision is made public. All right, Willow?
Stuart, in tonight's Moneyline Focus, Amazon.com takes the wraps off a mixed bag of results. The online retailer reporting a loss of 33 cents a share, 2 cents narrower than expected. Revenue came in at $578 million, but Wall Street was looking for better sales figures, and the stock fell nearly $3 in active after-hours trading. Bruce Francis is standing by at Amazon's headquarters in Seattle with the man in charge, Amazon Chairman and CEO Jeff Bezos. Gentlemen?
Willow, thank you very much. And analysts indeed on the conference call. We're asking a lot of questions about why Amazon was light on those numbers. Jeff, I know that you think you shouldn't focus on that. Why?
Well, I think one of the things to keep in mind here is we grew 84% year over year on a company that's as large as we are with a multi-billion-dollar annualized sales rate. This is very unusual. If you were to find the number of companies that have grown that rapidly on that kind of sales base, it would be a tiny, tiny number. So we're very proud of the year-over-year growth that we did see. At the same time, we made progress in our operating loss as a percentage of sales, which is something that we really wanted to do. Came in 2 cents above analyst estimates on the operating loss. And also, in our books, music, and video business, which is our largest segment, we had a $10 million operating profit, which we're very proud of. And then finally, our electronics business is really exploding. So we have this segment called early stage businesses, and people are choosing more and more every day to buy electronics, tools, toys, and things like that, the hard goods category at Amazon.com. We're very grateful to those customers for doing that.
Jeff, you also said that you were able to cut costs and meet those bottom line projections. Is that a signal to Wall Street that, okay, we're not going to leave you hanging. If we're light on the top line, we're going to manage to the bottom line you're expecting? We're always going to do that.
No, it's not. That would be the slightly wrong emphasis, which is what it really should be a signal of is the fact that internally, we are very focused on making our own internal goals and objectives. And we have an objective of driving toward profitability. And so when we set that kind of objective, we're going to make sure that we, for ourselves and for our shareholders, make that kind of steady progress.
You also said on the call that you want to get more revenue per existing customer, especially in the U.S. That's going to be your goal there. Does that mean less spending on marketing and will that help accelerate the drive to profitability?
Not necessarily less spending on marketing, but it's more the internal resources of the company, the people that we have, and what kind of projects that they work on. Because we've got a lot of choices about what people work on inside the company. And one of the things that we want to do is build some features that teach customers that maybe are heavy book buyers of ours and who love us for that service, that guess what, we're also the best place to buy electronics. We have a lot of ideas in that regard, and it's already starting to happen in such large numbers. I think it bears pointing out, I talk about this early stage business segment, that is now at an annualized rate of about $500 million a year, and the average age of those businesses is 8.6 months. A year ago, that business was virtually zero.
Jeff, we're going to have to check in with you next quarter to see how it's going.
Thank you.
Jeff Bezos, Chairman and CEO of Amazon.com, reporting live outside headquarters. Willow, back to you.
Bruce, I just have one question for Jeff, if I may. After Joe Galli left yesterday to head to VerticalNet, is Jeff convinced that he has the management depth to steer that company effectively?
Jeff, I'm going to pass on a question from Willow following
the
departure of Joe Galli yesterday. And of course, Gilles Bicherat left a few months ago. Do you have the management depth that you need to continue to execute and meet these projections?
We really do. It's probably one of the single strongest points about Amazon.com. I would match up our management team to that of any company in the industry, or maybe even broader than that. And it's not just at the senior team level, I should point out. It really is deep all the way through the company. We just got fantastic people, and they're really passionate and dedicated.
Jeff, let us know when you have a replacement on that, and we'll check in with you later. Willow, back to you.
Bruce, thank you, and please thank Jeff again for us. Stuart?
All right, next on Moneyline, one town's message to online retailers. Not in my backyard. A special look at what's behind a grassroots backlash against online shopping. We'll bring you that story next.
Annually to online theft. Hackers have broken into...
I hope you're buying tech stocks.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking of buying Ameri Dynasoft.
Not Logimerical?
No, Logimerical merged with Soft Ameridyne. It was then acquired by Logimicrotech.
You're thinking of Logimicrotech?
That's a stock that's going to take off.
The Logimicrotech?
No, Ameridyne Techie Corp. Sure as I'm wearing shoes.
Ameridyne Techie Corp?
Yeah, they're an offshoot of Dynatechie Corp.
Now there are over 50 index funds that you can buy and sell just like stocks. Introducing iShares.
On internet time, companies grow in the blink of an eye. But few broadband internet communications companies have grown as quickly as Quest. Because none has embraced change with the passion of Quest. From Europe to Asia and across the Americas, Quest is changing the way the world communicates. Efficiently, effectively, dramatically. Imagine. What could you do with the communications to change everything?
Ride the light. Quest.
Picture this. A place down by the lake, front yard of crystal blue water, plenty of room for the kids, and, of course, the grandkids.
If you can picture the future, Nationwide can too. We offer financial services like mutual funds and retirement planning that fit your changing needs and help make your future everything you pictured. Nationwide. Insurance, financial services, on your side.
I'm Wolf Blitzer. Tonight on The World Today, sifting through the wreckage of Air France Concorde Flight 4590. What caused the jet to go down? The search for clues begins. Tonight on The World Today, 8 p.m. Eastern, only on CNN.
As you know, we're waiting for what we expect to be momentarily a decision in the Napster case. Our own Casey Wyan, who is inside the courthouse, tells us, he suggests, that the judge will likely rule against Napster. We'll bring you the formal ruling as soon as it occurs. Now, .com retailers have been under siege on Wall Street this year, and increasingly, they're facing a backlash on Main Street. Local and state governments, along with small businesses, are teaming up to try and convince consumers not to do their shopping on the net. A key reason? Lost tax dollars, because online sales are levy-free. Cece Rogers takes a look at one Chicago suburb that's taken its fight to the airwaves.
Niles, Illinois.
The Chicago suburb is known more for its leaning tower than its grassroots politics. But now, the town of Niles and its brick-and-mortar businesses are battling the threat of internet shopping.
Our sales are down very, very much, and I can tell you it's 35%. And it's something that I never anticipated, and it's creating a real problem for us.
Spurred on by the village's mayor of 40 years, Niles has spent $35,000 to run television ads like this one.
Ask yourself, do I want a chance getting the wrong item, having return problems, paying excess fees, and becoming a fraud victim?
And there are bigger plans ahead. Niles is lobbying 130 of its neighboring suburbs to join the TV ads aimed against internet shopping. Niles is far from alone in its fight against online retailers and their tax-free status. These full-page ads have been running in the New York Times, and the National Governors Association wants states to band together to collect taxes on internet transactions. At stake, an estimated $11 billion annually in state sales tax revenues. A congressional moratorium on taxing online sales has meant that web surfers can buy everything from vitamins and books to cigarettes tax-free.
E-commerce in the U.S. in 2000 will come to about $29 billion, growing to about $199 billion by 2005. So the threat of loss of tax revenues to state and local taxing jurisdictions is a legitimate one.
Niles officials worry about maintaining city services at their current level if sales tax revenues steadily erode.
I hope the internet goes like crazy, but just share the wealth. I mean, do what the local retailers are doing. All we want you to do is be fair with us, and we hope the internet goes great.
We're almost in a situation that instead of fighting them and maybe joining them and going on the internet ourselves.
And that's just what local governments are afraid of. CeCe Rogers, CNN Financial News, Niles, Illinois.
Up next, ahead of the curve, some of what you need to know tonight before the markets open tomorrow.
You're watching Moneyline.
Ahead of the Curve is brought to you by Daytech Online. The rules of online trading are changing.
Heard about George?
The software guy? The guy with the backhand?
Yeah. Bought Citro Friday morning.
Friday morning? How do you do that?
Same way we did.
Yeah, but George isn't a trader. Hey, George. Hiya.
I hate that guy.
Daytech Online. The rules are changing.
As you may know, recording companies have filed an injunction or looking for a preliminary injunction against Napster to stop its free downloading of music on the internet. This situation is being discussed now in a California courthouse. Our own Casey Wine is in that courthouse, and he suggests that Napster is about to lose. That would be the judge's ruling expected at any moment. We'll have the full story for you at 11:30 Eastern tonight on Moneyline. Willow?
Stuart, checking what could move the markets tomorrow. Earnings reports continue with WorldCom leading the way. Forecast to report profits of 46 cents a share. Nokia estimated at 19 cents per share, and eToys expected to report a loss of 37 cents a share. Also due out tomorrow, chip equipment maker KLA-Tencor, Starbucks, and Texaco. On the economic front, look for June's durable goods report. Economists are anticipating a slowdown from last month, and the employment cost index for the second quarter. Also tomorrow, the Federal Communications Commission holds a hearing on the proposed merger of America Online and Time Warner, the parent of CNN. That's Moneyline for this evening. Good night from Los Angeles, Stuart.
I'm Stuart Varney. Good night from New York. Here's Bill Press with Crossfire.
Stuart and Willow, thank you. Dick Cheney says he's proud to be a conservative, but is he too conservative for most Americans? Is he too far right when most Americans are in the middle? The Reverend Jesse Jackson and Congressman Bob Barr debate liberal versus conservative, left, right, and center. Next on Crossfire.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Bell Atlantic, your guide through the wiles of communications.
Tonight on CNN's Larry King Live, all 9 women members of the U.S. Senate. Tonight, 9 Eastern on CNN.
Every online investor dreams of finding a broker with low commissions,
cutting-edge technology and personal customer service. At Scottrade, we've got you covered. Our real-time streaming quotes and charts are eye-popping. And when you combine that technology with $7 market orders and customer service delivered through 115 branches nationwide, you have an online brokerage firm that simply can't be beat. Open an account today and receive our real-time streaming quotes and charts through the end of the year, absolutely free. Scottrade.com.
What about this one? All right.
Can't find the right car for you? Shop vhix.com. Want access to 500,000 used cars? vhix.com. Lease or purchase? vhix.com. Or do side-by-side comparisons? vhix.com. Need to find the right local dealer? vhix.com. Find the right car for you. vhix.com. Roadmap to the automotive world.
Meet Lynn Cheney, CNN Newsstand, tonight.
And hide flaws. Dick Cheney has an image that is palatable. But Jesus warned us to be aware of wolves in sheep clothing.
Democrats attack George W. Bush's running mate for being conservative. Tonight, what's so wrong with being conservative?
I supported, and certainly I do have a conservative record, but I'm proud of it.
From Washington, Crossfire. On the left, Bill Press. On the right, Mary Madeline. In the Crossfire, Congressman Bob Barr of Georgia, a Bush supporter. And in Chicago, Jesse Jackson, president and founder of the Rainbow Push Coalition and a Gore supporter.
Good evening and welcome to Crossfire. Governor George W. Bush and his brand new running mate, Dick Cheney, made their joint campaign debut today in Wyoming, which Cheney represented in the late 70s and early 80s. Their maiden event was at the local high school where Dick Cheney, the football co-captain, met his wife Lynn, the prom queen. Bush dismissed the steady Democrat assault on his vice presidential choice as typical attack politics. Meanwhile, Vice President Gore campaigned in Chicago at the Rainbow Push Coalition Conference, where its founder, Reverend Jesse Jackson, according to press accounts, quote, unleashed a ferocious attack on Cheney, end quote. Gore contended the selection highlights the differences between the campaigns and that conservatism will be the loser. So tonight, is the first campaign of the new century turning out to be an old-fashioned liberal versus conservative contest? Is conservatism a losing philosophy or a reflection of mainstream America? And just what is 21st century conservatism anyway, Bill?
Nobody better to speak about conservatism than Bob Barr. Congressman, welcome back.
Always a pleasure, Bill. Thank you.
I think you and I are going to agree on something right off the bat tonight. I want to make you a deal. I will admit that I am too far to the left for most Americans if you will admit that Dick Cheney is too far to the right for most Americans. Deal?
You're wrong again. Dick Cheney is mainstream America any way you cut, slice, dice it, or chop it, Bill.
Mainstream America?
He stands for freedom, free enterprise, responsibility, lower taxes, lower regulation, strong national defense. You tell me where mainstream America is not on the same wavelength there with Dick Cheney.
Well, I'll let someone else tell you where he's not on the mainstream. And we're not talking about the fact that he's conservative. I mean, there are a lot of conservatives out there, but Dick Cheney, as his voting record proves, is an extreme conservative. Let me highlight to you.
Don't go that extreme label. He is mainstream.
He's earned it. Let me let John Kerry show you where just some of the issues show you how extreme this man is. Here's Senator John Kerry.
I find so many of his votes to represent a different vision for the country than I and many of my colleagues are fighting for. I don't know how you vote against Head Start. I don't know how you vote not to free Nelson Mandela from prison. I don't know how you vote against Superfund and Clean Water Act and Safe Drinking Water Act.
Safe Drinking Water Act, against that is mainstream America?
Maybe if Dick Cheney were running against Kerry for a House seat somewhere, these might be a legitimate basis for a debate. But Dick Cheney is not running. You can go back, as you well know, Bill, in anybody's voting record. You know, Dick Cheney might have voted against Head Start because he has heard the same thing I've heard from a lot of people, and that is the program is very poorly managed. What he might have voted against was a specific increase in it that was not warranted. This is silliness. This is the silly season where they're going to go back and they're going to nitpick somebody's past voting record. The fact of the matter is, Dick Cheney stands for free enterprise, responsibility, less government regulation, lower taxes, and strong defense, and that is mainstream America, and you can't stand it.
We'll see more of it.
Okay, Reverend Jackson, let's go back to Bill's point about most Americans are in the middle. Okay, as the press has said, this attack on Dick Cheney and by extension, conservatism has been sustained and ferocious, but I'm wondering if it might just be misplaced. According to a poll taken last month by Voter.com Battleground poll, when asked, what do you consider yourself, 59% of the respondents said very or somewhat conservative versus 31% who said they were somewhat or very liberal. Only 7% said they were moderate. People consider themselves conservative and consider Dick Cheney in concert with their views.
Well, these definitions keep changing, but George Bush chose an oil mate and a father figure whose record speaks for itself. He voted against workers having pre-notice on plant closings. That cuts across the board. He voted against a woman's right to choose when there's a case of rape and incest. I mean, that will not go away. He voted 6 times to not impose sanctions on apartheid South Africa. Voted not to release Nelson Mandela. Voted against Head Start. These are moral centers. These are not right or left. I mean, these are issues for Appalachia.
And you know what, Reverend, can I just say this? Because that was his voting record in the late 70s and early 80s. And I think you know this by now. When he and Vice President Gore served together, they shared the exact same, virtually the same voting record on abortion, on guns. They got the highest rating from both of those right-wing extreme groups. So that was 20 years ago. We're talking not about Cheney's record 20 years ago, but Bush's proposals for the future. Don't you think that's where this race should be fought out?
Well, it has to be about the future, but in the real sense, it seemed that Powell was eliminated, Colin Powell, because his support for affirmative action got him booed at the last convention. And Pataki, he was pro-life, it got him knocked out. McCain was for financial reform, it got him knocked out. So he ended up with Cheney, who was just an oil mate and a father figure. His record of extreme right-wing politics is one he's proud of. The question is, does the nation accept the position on Head Start? Does the nation accept his position on prenatal care, Head Start, daycare? I think the nation does not accept his positions.
They accept Bush's positions, but Reverend Jackson, with all due respect, you know Colin Powell was the top of Governor Bush's list. He was the top of any Republican's list. You know the governor went to him, and that's simply a misstatement of the fact that Colin Powell was booted off the short list, or A list.
That's the top of the PRO list. The reality is that you don't go from Colin Powell to Dick Cheney. That is a radical leap. Because in some sense, when Bush went to South Carolina and wrapped himself in the flag of Jefferson Davis, and then went to the NAACP and wrapped himself in the flag of Abraham Lincoln, it was that kind of ideological gap that created too much gap between George Bush and Colin Powell and other moderate Republicans.
Congressman Barr, I want to get one thing straight here. This idea that Dick Cheney and Al Gore had the same voting record. They were in Congress. When Dick Cheney was in Congress, the American Conservative Union gave him an average, over the years he was in Congress, he was there 12 years, an average of 90.8. That was his score. Do you know what Al Gore's average score was from the ACU?
I don't know, and I don't care. I'm sure it was much lower, but I think you're misquoting Mary. She didn't say they had the same voting record. She said just with regard to two
the conservative
groups.
Organizations rated them the same.
She said on pro-life issues and on gun control issues.
His record from the American Conservative Union was 14.6. The idea that Dick Cheney and Al Gore were the same person in Congress is simply
they
fallacious.
Weren't the same. What you have is you have an ultra-liberal in Al Gore and a solid mainstream conservative in Dick Cheney. Yes, they're very different people now.
You're wrong, by the way, about both. Now, let's get back to this mainstream issue, and I just want to mention a couple of issues. I know you guys, you nominated me yesterday. You want to run away from this record today. Well, guess what?
I'm not running away from anything. I'm very proud of it, and I'm sure Dick Cheney is.
Okay, good. Let's be proud of it then. Let's talk about a couple of issues. On guns, one of your favorite issues, Mr. NRA board member. Dick Cheney in 1985 was one of only 21 members of Congress to vote against a ban on those cop-killer bullets, those armor-piercing bullets. You tell me that's where mainstream America is?
What I will tell you this is it's a red herring, Bill Press. Because first of all, any bullet is a cop-killer bullet. And what happened back then, and we deal with this over and over and over again with the gun control people on the Judiciary Committee, is they keep coming up with more and more broader definitions of what satisfies their definition of a so-called cop-killer bullet. Any bullet is a cop-killer bullet. And what we have to do is to protect our police officers, not engage in these sophisticated definitions to outlaw ammunition.
Actually,
Dick Cheney said it would be wrong to outlaw ammunition.
Actually, if you look at the debate, it was the police officers who were asking for the ban. Dick Cheney voted against it. Let me give you another issue on seniors. In 1987, Dick Cheney was one of eight only members of Congress to vote against the Older Americans Act. Newt Gingrich voted for it. Are you telling me that's in the mainstream to deny nutrition and assistance to senior citizens?
There is so much waste in government, Bill Press. We have to deal with this also constantly.
Food?
They want to give meals and just throw food.
Meals for
throw
seniors is waste?
Bill, I don't know what the specific parameters of that were. It could have been some cockamamie, wasteful government program for which there was...
Gingrich voted for it.
Well, that doesn't mean anything. For which maybe the very next vote was one in favor of a much better program for seniors. You don't know that.
Okay,
You're just reading what somebody tells you.
Reverend, we can spend the rest of the show nitpicking congressional records 20 years ago, or we can cite some facts. No one's running away from Cheney's record so much as disputing the Democratic distortion of it. Let me give you some facts, okay? Not a distortion of a 20-year-old record. Since Clinton has come to town, Republicans have picked up a dozen governorships, almost a dozen Senate seats, almost 4 dozen congressional seats. There have been 478 Democrats switching to the Republican Party, including a Southern California congressman today, Marty Martinez, switched to the Republican Party, saying that you guys, Democrats, are hypocrites. If conservatism is so repugnant, why are more Americans than ever voting for Republicans?
All I really know is that 8 years ago we were in the nation's greatest debt and deficit, and now we're in the nation's greatest economic surplus with the most jobs and the most economic growth. When Gore runs on the record of deficit to surplus,
the Republican Congress,
and more Americans work, when he runs on the record of budget priorities of investment, inclusion, and growth, that's a winner for all Americans.
Okay, we're going to take a break right there. Right, left, and center. The debate continues. Where are Americans heading? We'll pick up that question. We come right back on Crossfire.
Work, work, work.
David Chesler's growing company designs GPS systems for golf.
Hey, I'm willing to put in the long hours of research, but dealing with details, now that's rough. So we go to Brightlane.com.
Brightlane.com gives businesses one place to go for everything from banking to benefits,
payroll to paperclips.
With Brightlane.com, it's easy to knock out the details of running a business.
So I can get back to work.
Brightlane.com. Do what you do best.
When I think of America, I think of baseball.
I think of wide open spaces.
I think of freedom.
When I think of America, I think of ingenuity.
Free enterprise.
Homework.
I think of all the friends I lost fighting to save it.
I think of celebrities.
I think of Pennsylvania. It's my home.
Call 1-800-VISIT-PA or come to our homepage. America comes to Pennsylvania.
Every year, Planned Parenthood gives millions of women and families the facts they need to make responsible choices. That's why you need the facts about George W. Bush. Bush calls himself compassionate, but would restrict funding for family planning and put a gag rule on doctors. He agrees he's the most anti-abortion governor in America and supports a constitutional amendment that would take away our right to choose. Does that sound compassionate or responsible? Get the facts and decide for yourself.
From Amazon.com to Yahoo, from Cisco to Sun, companies that know the internet best run Oracle. Oracle. Software powers the internet.
Sound is free. And so is our hearing screening. Belltone invites you to hear what you've been missing. Call today. Belltone. Listen again.
Today, enough coal to power 1 out of every 9 homes in the country travels on the BNSF Railway. Music by Mozart. Electricity by the people and the coal trains of BNSF.
Welcome back to Crossfire. I remember when liberal was a dirty word, but now with all the flap over Dick Cheney, is conservative becoming a dirty word? But what's it mean to be a conservative today, and where are most Americans, left, right, or center? We cover the political spectrum from left to right tonight with Congressman Bob Barr, Republican from Georgia, who's supporting George W. Bush, and with the Reverend Jesse Jackson, joining us from Chicago, former Democratic candidate for president and supporter of Vice President Al Gore. Mary?
Okay, Reverend, we've been talking about, again, an ancient voting record here. That was conservatism as it existed then in an era of deficits. And what Dick Cheney said last night, Larry King Live, his votes represented fiscal conservatism. Let me read you a couple of, just a couple of quotes that are reflective of George W. Bush, as he's the guy who's running for president. His thinking which reflects 21st century conservatism. He has derided his sitting conservatives as having a destructive mindset when they take an approach, he says, that has no higher goal, no nobler purpose than leave us alone. He has said that economic growth is not the solution to every problem, that a rising tide lifts many boats but not all, and he has derided Republicans for confusing the need for limited government with the disdain for government himself. Can't we debate George W. Bush's 21st century conservatism here, or are we going to have just an ancient, irrelevant debate?
We can, but America is a liberal idea. I mean, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses who yearn to breathe free, bring them to my team and shores, and I'll make of the rejected stones cornerstones. That's a liberal idea. But so when Gore takes the idea of universal health care, choosing prenatal care, Head Start, and daycare on the front side over jail care and welfare on the back side, that's moral center. As he moves toward universal health care, there are 50 million Americans that have no health insurance. 1,500 die a day from cancer. A coal miner dies from black lung disease every day. To address those needs with a surplus is the moral center. It's not political right or left. It is the moral center.
Okay, whatever the label will be, but let's look at results in Texas. Look at Bush's record. This is also the moral center. Who cares what you call it? Here's what happened in education, which every kid every day under the current public school system is falling backward. In Texas, under accountability and responsibility, minority kids in particular are advancing at rates faster than anywhere else in the country. That's 21st century compassionate conservatism.
In his budget priorities, it is debt elimination and tax relief, not investment, inclusion, and growth. And the reason I'm glad that Gore's going to do some campaigning in Appalachia, A, to help de-racialize the debate, but B, most poor Americans are not on welfare. They work every day. They work in hospitals and they clean beds and can't sleep in them when they get sick. Most poor Americans are not on welfare. They work every day. So when Gore fights for the working poor, and then Cheney is against giving workers pre-notice that their plant is going to close, that's quite a gap. And I am proud to be a part of a gap that would say, give the American workers first priority. I mean, who can be against that?
Congressman Barr, I want to bring up to today, too, and I was really curious about why George W. Bush would pick Dick Cheney as vice president, and I think I discovered why today in the statement by a leading Republican.
I can tell you.
Leading Republican. Let him speak for himself, please.
I would simply want to say that my main concern has been to make sure that no one was placed on the ticket who would be committed to the pro-abortion cause and would therefore represent an abandonment of the party's principles in that practical way. Obviously, that criterion has been satisfied, and that's my only concern.
So George Bush went so far to the right that he got Alan Keyes to drop out of the race and endorse him. Was it worth it? Is that the mainstream?
The mainstream of America is against abortion bill, and that is precisely where Dick Cheney is. I mean, you're lead-in for this. You talk about this flap. This is just a flap in your mind and the mind of liberals. There is no flap out there. Dick Cheney is a solid mainstream American who believes in those conservative values of free enterprise, self-reliance, responsibility. Those are the sorts of things. Tax relief.
We all believe in that. But if a woman is impregnated because she's raped or incest, Cheney's against that too. Does a woman have any rights at all?
He said he is very comfortable with George W. Bush's position. You ought to listen, Reverend. That is what he said last night. That's what he said today. And he said he's very comfortable with that.
He's comfortable. He will never face rape or incest. This man would be one heartbeat away from being the presidency. And he seems to have radical disregard for the rights of workers and women and basic civil rights for all Americans.
Well, I don't know what the rights of workers have to do with right to life. I mean, thank goodness we have somebody that will stand up and say that the unborn of this country have right to life. That is a mainstream position. Your position that you believe in abortion is not mainstream.
Rights of workers is pretty mainstream. The right to livable wage, the right to organize, the right to job security, the right to be noticed when the plant's going to close on you. So whether you're in Appalachia, Mud Creek, Kentucky, or West Virginia, or Mississippi, how can you be against workers having protections against international tyranny?
This will be a long campaign. It will be focused primarily on 4 people, unfortunately not you or I or Bill or Mary, with all due respect. Dick Cheney and George W. Bush will be traveling the length and breadth of America. They will be visiting those communities. They will be talking about creating jobs, lowering taxes, freeing up the engine of free enterprise, building up our national defense. Those are mainstream issues.
These 2 armed mates will need a job around November the 10th.
Jesse, can I just ask you one final question? Secretary Cheney, when he was confirmed, was voted on favorably by Gore, by Nunn, by Mitchell, by Quayle, all these Democratic leaders. They all cited respect and his ability for Secretary of Defense, who oversees the lives of millions of Americans, their education, their health care, ensures that they're not discriminated against. If they thought he was so wonderful and respected him so much then, what's the big hoorah today other than just pure attack politics?
Well, there's this contrast between his image, perception, and reality. And while they accepted his appointment by the president, now that he is about to be a heartbeat away from becoming America's president, does America stand by his position on workers and their right of plant closing notification? Do women accept the idea that if they are raped or victims of incest, they cannot have the right to choose? Why would he vote against Nelson Mandela's freedom?
Reverend, as you know, last night, you probably didn't get to watch him because you're in the middle of running your conference. He said he has the highest regard for Mandela. Thank you so much, Reverend. We know how busy you are at the conference. We're out of time.
He wanted Mandela in jail.
Out of time, Jesse. Thanks for joining us. As always, Congressman, it's a pleasure. Bill Cross. And I will be right back on our Crossfire final comments.
What is Tyco doing today? We're building advanced electronic systems that make cars smarter and driving safer. What is Tyco doing today? Working in your world. Tyco International.
Is it possible to drive a car and still have a clean environment?
To refine a cleaner gasoline? Can solar power become mainstream? Could business go further and be a force for good? Can 100,000 people in 100 countries come together to build a new brand of progress for the world? We think so. And today, BP, Amoco, Arco, and Castro get together to try. Beyond petroleum. BP.
Jim and John were competing for the same promotion. Then Jim got the amazingly quiet Genie Accelerator, which opens twice as fast. Jim got to work quicker. Jim got the big promotion. John works for Jim now. The Accelerator, only from Genie.
Can you promise him it will still be safe to play here in a week? A year? 20 years.
At the top of the hour, the latest on the investigation into the crash of Air France Flight 4590, new videotape of the Concorde's final moments, and new revelations about engine problems before takeoff. And the 10th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. How far have we really come in a decade? The World Today follows Crossfire's closing comments.
Don't miss Friday's show when Crossfire comes to you live from the Republican Convention site in Philadelphia. Our guests are former RNC Chairman Haley Barbour and current DNC Chairman Ed Rendell, the former mayor of Philadelphia.
Can't wait. Good show.
Two great guys. And I can't wait to stop this track that we're on, distorting Cheney's record and attacking him. I'm just telling you, calmly, it's a bad strategy for the campaign. It's going to backfire. What Al Gore needs to do is talk about what he's for, not what Dick Cheney's 20-year-old record was.
It does matter what Dick Cheney is for. And I repeat what I said yesterday. When one person, you or anybody else, shows me one vote that was wrong, then I will stop citing them. But let me tell you something, Mayor. You know what's really going on here? I think George Bush recognized at one time that Dick Armey and those guys had taken the party too far to the right. He called himself a compassionate conservative. Now he's gone as far to the right as they are by picking Dick Cheney.
Nice try.
No, he had a chance to prove himself.
Not going anywhere.
From the left, I'm Bill Press. Good night for Crossfire.
And from the proud right, I'm Mary Madeline. Join us tomorrow night for more Crossfire.
Closing Comments is brought to you by Americans for Balanced Energy Choices. For more information, visit www.balancedergy.org.
A cleaner environment. That's in part because America's electric utilities that use coal have invested over $50 billion in new technologies that have helped reduce criteria air pollutant emissions by nearly 1/3.
Among the highest number of graduates in computer science and engineering in the country, over 4,700 graduates in computer and information sciences, over 5,000 graduates in engineering, including chemical and bioengineering, and they all graduated from the same place. Just who produces this kind of talent for the workforce each and every year?
Pennsylvania.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Bell Atlantic, your guide through the wiles of communications.
Tonight on CNN Newsstand, meet the spouse of the GOP vice presidential nominee, Lynn Cheney. CNN Newsstand, tonight, 10 Eastern.
Your credentials are impeccable. Oh,
Yeah.
One last question. Do you have a satellite dish or AT&T digital cable?
A dish.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for your time.
What?
I mean, if you paid hundreds more for equipment and installation, and you can't even get local channels without paying more when digital cable gives you lots more channels than before, well, I'm sorry for you, sir. Thank you.
I love digital cable.
AT&T digital cable. It's smarter.
What about this one? All right.
Can't find the right car for you? Shop vhix.com. Want access to 500,000 used cars? vhix.com. Lease or purchase? vhix.com. Or do side-by-side comparisons? vhix.com. Need to find the right local dealer? vhix.com. Find the right car for you. vhix.com. Roadmap to the automotive world.
This is where your weekend takes off.
True adventure requires an uncertain outcome. There's this tremendous exhilaration. My greatest fear is the remoteness. I don't